Hello, everyone from Chelsea Fan TV. I hope you're all doing very well and you are enjoying your Monday. It's Monday, 1 o'clock, ready for the lunch show where we go through all things Chelsea. Big up to everyone that's watching. We're going to talk about Chelsea's transfer policy today. We're going to talk about the good and the bad. Which is worse? Is there more bad than good? Or actually, are we missing something here? And do we have positives to take? So let me know in the comments as well. First of all, just do you agree with the transfer policy, or do you think it's all right? I mean, I'm very intrigued to see. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do. Otherwise, go and do it. Check it out now. And you can also become a member of Chelsea Fan TV. There's different tiers as well, and you get a few perks included. Let's get straight into it, guys. Now, I know in the thumbnail we don't have him on it, but Jesus Christ, Joao Felix. I mean, from what I'm hearing in Italy, the guy has been rubbish. That's basically what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that Joao Felix has not been a successful loan. We thought he. Oh God, it's a bit bright, isn't it? Yeah, he's not been playing great. There was an article in an Italian paper saying that he was a ghost. He was nowhere to be seen. He was by far the worst player on the pitch the other day for AC Milan. I don't know why that is. I'm not watching Milan games. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm analysing every single player that we have on loan. But this is a player that we're clearly hearing a lot about. And the reason for that, there's going to be two reasons. He's either playing really well or he's not playing well. And it seems like it is the latter. You have a player who is not performing, and subsequently it's coming back to us. And again, we have to react to it, don't we? Because there's multiple aspects to this. There's the aspect of, should we have signed him in the first place from Atletico Madrid? Did we pay a good price for him? Was 45 million too much? Should we have utilized him more when he was a part of the squad and given him a bigger role within the team? And was it the right decision to loan him out in January? And will this loan benefit Chelsea ultimately? Because you think to yourself, what was the reason for doing it? What were we actually going to get out of this? I personally think that Chelsea have shot themselves in the foot. We have put ourselves in a position based on what we've done in January, and we are now walking on very thin ice. If one more player gets injured in a key position, then we are in a difficult scenario. If Palmer's injured, who replaces him? If Nkunku's injured, who comes in? Because you don't have a striker as it stands. What happens if Neto gets injured? What happens if Cucurella gets injured? There's no depth. There is no depth. What happens if Caicedo gets injured? What are you going to play Dewsbury Hall? Is he going to give you what Caicedo gives you? The list goes on. Big up to you, Jordan. I hope you're doing well, mate. I hope you're doing well, Jordan. We've heard the news that we are interested. We're interested in Leao from AC Milan. Would you have him in the Chelsea squad? It really depends, to be honest with you. Like a lot of these players, I like Leao. I think he's a good player. I don't know if Leao suits what Maresca's doing, though. You've got to have players that pair well with the manager. I think we're restricted with Maresca in that sense. He likes technical players. He likes players that work hard. He likes players that do their shift defensively as well as up the other end of the pitch. From what I've heard with regards to Leao, he is not a player that runs back. He doesn't track back. He's not great defensively. And I've heard from Milan fans as well that he can be a bit lazy at times. So I don't see him fitting into our plans. I don't see Maresca being particularly interested in him. That's probably one of the reasons that Joao Felix didn't feature as much for Chelsea. Although I say that, a lot of the time when Felix did play, I used the Leicester game when we beat Leicester. What was that, 3-0 or something, or 3-1? I thought Joao Felix's work rate was fantastic, and he done well in the Conference League games as well. So maybe the manager needs to be a little bit more lenient with those type of things, because we've got to attract top players to the team somehow. If you're telling me there's a player who's interested in coming of that caliber, but he just wouldn't fit what Maresca wants, then again, it goes back to what I've been saying before you question the manager, because if you're a flexible manager, you can work with different types of players. If you're a good manager, you can utilize different types of players. And if you're not, then you can't. And I have a feeling that maybe we're in that situation, but I hope I'm wrong. I really do. Big up to you, Arthur. I'm glad you liked the lunch show. You said, I watched Milan versus Lazio last night. Felix was god-awful. The manager was shouting at him every 5 minutes, dropped out of position hundreds of times, kept going deep and losing the ball. So you watched that game as well. What was the score with Lazio versus Milan? I presume Lazio won that game as well. I'm going to just guess. Also, not that it bothers us anymore, but Pulisic was horrendous too. Fair enough. Well, I think Pulisic has been a lot better in Milan than Joao Felix. As far as I'm aware, Pulisic is actually having a good time out there. If Felix has been rubbish at AC Milan, why leave Chelsea? I think 45 million was too much to sign him. He's not getting anywhere with any team, Alex. Fair. You're right, Alex. We have good squad depth. We have got squad depth and too many injuries in the squad. Well, we have depth, but because of the injuries, we don't have depth. And because of the loans, we don't have depth. So make that what you want to make it. Just move that back. Oh. I mean, if we actually look into this, guys, then, I mean, the latest is relatively self-evident. I mean, we've covered some of it quite early on, but this is what we're hearing. So this is based on Fabrizio Morano's come out and said the current feeling is that AC Milan will not continue with Joao Felix. Internally, it has not been what they expected. It's really difficult for Milan, not only down to Joao. Let's wait for the new direction, but they can't imagine going to Chelsea and paying 40 or 45 million. And I completely agree with Milan's standpoint. You know, he's not worth 40 to 45 million. I think at the moment, the type of player you're looking at, market value, what he brings to the team, his attributes, his quality, you'd probably be looking anywhere from, if we're looking at realistic price points, you'd be looking at 25 to 30 billion. I look at Joao Felix and I compare him to, if I was to value him, I mean, I'm not saying he plays the same way as Garnacho, but, you know, I wouldn't pay much more for Garnacho than I would compared to Joao Felix. I know they're different types of players, but Felix has that spark that maybe you don't get as much from Garnacho, but he has no end product. They both lack end product, and he is not a team player. He's not a good team player. He had his best stint of football at Chelsea when Chelsea were poor as a team. He is a player who plays as an individual and enjoys playing as an individual. But unfortunately, we need a player who can play within a team, not a player who just plays for themselves. I'm not even saying Felix is this really selfish player. I don't like him, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that at all. He's a good player. He's clearly fallen off since when he was at Benfica. And I think that the move to Atletico Madrid was never the right choice for his career because of the way he plays. I don't understand how, looking back, he could think that Diego Simeone was going to get the best out of his attacking qualities, because half the time in that team, you don't have the ball. It's a counter-attacking outfit. It's not a team that want to dominate possession and break teams back down. It's the opposite. And if you're the team that sits back, then you've got to do more defensively. You have to hold your position. You have to be disciplined. This is not a player that's disciplined. This is a player that, quite frankly, just wants to free roam, like Cole Palmer. But even Palmer's got discipline. I mean, I give him that. People can say whatever they want about a lack of game time for Palmer. He is more disciplined than Nkunku. He is more disciplined than Joao Felix. And that's another reason why Maresca loves him so much, because actually the defensive side of Palmer's game is that good that even if you were to rest him, you know that you're missing out on two things, not having Palmer in the team and playing Felix, for example. You don't get as much output from the attacking sense, and you're not getting the defensive work rate either. So it impacts the team in a number of ways. And yeah, Felix has brought this upon himself, to be honest with you guys. Like, honestly, Felix could have easily said, I want to stay at Chelsea, and refused the loan. That's what he could have done. But he was happy to leave. He's shown that he has no loyalty to this club either. And yeah, that's fine. I see this comment saying that he's being scapegoated. He hasn't even had a chance at Chelsea. Let's talk Sancho. Well, let's talk about Felix first. We'll get into Sancho. We'll get into all of it. Felix is not being scapegoated. We're just saying this is the news, guys. This is what's being reported. So I am not going to sit here and act like Felix is Chelsea's saviour. Would Felix help Chelsea at the moment? Absolutely. Felix is a player that makes Chelsea better. He improves us based on what we had last season, based on the system we're trying to play at the moment. Felix fits into the system more than Conor Gallagher would. Is Felix a better footballer than Conor Gallagher? Honestly, I think the answer is no, because what Gallagher can bring to a team is so unique and so valuable in itself. If you have a manager that plays the way, and he wants a midfield to run and be defensively solid, but on top of that, get forward and create and score goals, then Gallagher can bring you that. But you can't tell me that Joao Felix is a player that a manager relies on. If you were a manager and you're thinking to yourself, this is the player that's going to get me Champions League football, this is the player in the big game, I'm going to lean on him. He's going to score me goals. He's going to win me games. Based on what he's going to bring to this team, 20 points alone from this player. Without this player, we'd be losing a lot of games that we'd otherwise win. And that's what you look at with players in that number 10 position. This is a key position, not just to stay in games and control the midfield, to win games, to make your teammates better. Do you think that Joao Felix makes his teammates better? I ask you that. That's an open-ended question. The answer is no. He doesn't make his teammates better. I just spoke about 2 years ago when he was at Chelsea and he had his best stint. Did he make his teammates better? No. His teammates were crap and he was the best out of a bad bunch. And that's the reality of it. There's more that came out about this as well. Pies ended up saying, I won't give up on Joao Felix. He's the perfect for the number 10 position as a backup or a starter. He can unlock doors that no one else bar Palmer can. I would be excited to see his combination play with Estevan, the new striker. Now, the truth is, I think the door is closed. I think that Felix has closed the door. From the perspective of a fan, I can't speak for Maresca. Because also, you've got to remember, Maresca let him go. Maresca's obviously given him permission to go out on loan. And that's fine. But it doesn't really make any sense that when we look at Joao Felix, we see anything that we believe is going to bring us to the next level, because it's not. He was brought in for depth. He was used as depth. I think he's good depth. But if you are not a player that's comfortable not playing every week and you're going to cause issues in the dressing room and you're going to cause problems in that respect, then off you pop. Respectfully. I'm not even sitting here. I don't want to get personal with Joao Felix. I don't have a massive issue with Joao Felix, but he clearly has no loyalty to Chelsea. He kisses he's like Lukaku. He kisses every single badge. He says, I want to stay here. Oh, so you wanted to stay in Madrid. You wanted to stay at Barcelona. You wanted to stay at Chelsea the first time as well. You want to stay at Chelsea again. Now you want to stay at Milan. That's what he come out and said. He wants to stay at Milan. There is a pattern forming. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to see this stuff. He's saying the same thing, but he's also playing the same way, which is why none of these clubs are retaining him, because he's not good enough for those clubs. He's not a reliable player who can be counted upon by his teammates. If I was Joao Felix's teammate, I would think the guy's a good player. Does he deserve to play the way he does, though, in terms of the mistakes that he makes and what he wants to do in his position? Because he wants a free roam, right? He wants a role where he doesn't have to move. And that's fine. That's totally fine. But you have to score your goals consistently. You have to take your chances when you get them. And you have to make the other players around you better. You have to create for them. If you're not doing that, and you also, I'm not saying you have to be a leader, but an example in some respects. Yeah, a silent leader. I would call Cole Palmer a silent leader. Yeah, a bit like Harry Kane. Not really much of a talker. He does his talking on the pitch. He works hard. He's a good example to other players. That's what I want. I want a maestro with a good attitude, someone with a work rate. When you look at Joao Felix and that number 10, it almost reminds you of that classic Ozil number 10. It's outdated. If we were here 10 years ago, Joao Felix would be starting every week for a team. But football has evolved. And that number 10, you need so much more than what he offers now. We are now in a position where we cannot buy other players without selling what we have. And a lot of the players that we a lot of the players that we bought, we won't be able to sell them for the price that we paid for them, let alone make a profit, which is exactly what this ownership want to do. So honestly, what I can see happening, I can see Joao Felix going out on loan again next season. I can see that happening. Or even potentially staying at Chelsea. I mean, it's an option. If this was the old Chelsea pre-Bowley and Clearlake, then he'd be gone. I don't think Felix would be part of the plans, but we're so accepting as a club now of mediocrity that I can see Joao Felix actually coming back into the fold potentially. Not because he wants to, and not because Chelsea want him, because Chelsea don't have any other options. Because if we don't get Champions League, who's going to come in? Who wants to take that mantelpiece? Who wants to take a wage cut? Because he took a wage cut to come to Chelsea, which I respect. Now, let's not act like he's living on the poverty line. He's still making millions of pounds a year, I'm sure. But, he decided to take less money to be in a team that he wanted to play for. And that's totally fine. Okay, let's talk about Sancho, Ticom. You like Sancho. Let's talk about him. So what do we think about Sancho? I mean, my opinion on Sancho is a little bit mixed. Now, I wouldn't have brought Sancho to Chelsea under Poch, but I do think that he suits what Maresca's doing. I think that is a player that fits into our system perfectly. When you look at a player that's technical and can unlock defenses and Sancho does make his teammates better. He's a player that needs his teammates to play well on top of that. He's almost like, how do I describe it? If you're having a bad game and you're a Liverpool fan, you know that even if you're not playing well, Salah can get a goal. What we used to have with Hazard is one player that could drag us through a match if nobody else could. He could do it all on his own. With Sancho, you don't have either of those things. You don't have a player who will stat pad on goals. You don't have a player who will lead the team when his teammates aren't playing well. He will rise or fall to the level of the team. And if the team isn't playing well, then I don't think you'll ever see Sancho carrying this team forward. He's not that kind of character. He's not that kind of player. His style is link up. That's what he does well with. He links up with players. If they move around him, if they give him options, he'll find them. He'll make something happen. He's smart. He has good movement as well, and he's intricate with his footwork. And, we'll see some great goals like what we saw against Tottenham, link up against Bournemouth when Nkunku scored the winner right at the end. That was Sancho as well, making a massive impact when he come on. So this is still a key part of the project as far as I'm concerned with Sancho. I know a lot of people are angry with him because he hasn't performed as well as he should have in recent games, but he had a fantastic start. And you can immediately see with Chelsea, unlike with United, that he fits what we're trying to do. You can see he fits what we're trying to do. Then the question is, okay, cool, he fits what we're doing. Why is he not performing? And the answer is, again, what I just said before. You have a profile of a player who will rise to the level of the team and also fall. If the team plays well, you will see Sancho play well. If the team plays badly, you won't see Sancho play well. I mean, if we look at what Jadon Sancho has done this season, I think he deserves a little bit more credit and a little bit more leeway. Although I can appreciate, as you guys have, some of you have said, he's having a poor period at the moment. So let's zoom in on this guy. Let's zoom in on Sancho. Why is it just looking at the Conference League? I want current season. Okay. So this is where we are on Sancho. Right. So in the Premier League, 21 games played, 2 goals, 4 assists. FA Cup, 2 games, nothing. Conference League, 1 game, 2 assists. Community Shield, that wasn't for Chelsea. 25 minutes. Okay. This is the Conference League. He scored, got 2 assists against Heidenheim. I remember that game. He was fantastic in that game. And then the Premier League. He had a fantastic start, didn't he? An assist against Bournemouth, West Ham, and Brighton. Started against Forest. 45 minutes against Liverpool. He was on the bench, and then he had a slight injury problem. And then you got a couple more assists. You got one against Southampton, and what was that, a goal? Oh yeah, sorry. You got a goal against Southampton and a goal against Tottenham. A little bit of a dry patch, but he's having a lot of game time. And he gets another assist. And since then, we've seen a drop off. So this period, ever since that Tottenham goal, which is fantastic, we have seen Sancho not perform to the level. But there is a pattern here. There is a pattern. So I did a similar stream on Jackson months ago. And I think it's exactly the same thing with Sancho. Okay. And I'm not saying that I'm making excuses for it. I'm just trying to explain one of the reasons why I think the team as a whole has struggled a little bit more, especially scoring goals. Because you look at that game, we won 4-3 against Tottenham. We scored 5 against Southampton, 3 against Villa, 4 against Brighton, 3 against West Ham. We were scoring a lot, and we scored 6 against Wolves as well. I don't know where the Wolves game is. Why is he not? Where's the Wolves game? I can't see it. So yeah. And then what we started finding, we've gone from all these teams. We've gone from Fulham, Brighton, Bournemouth, West Ham, Brighton again. Not so much Forest. Liverpool, Newcastle, Arsenal, Aston Villa, Southampton, Tottenham. Why am I reading out those teams, and why am I skipping out Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest, Man United, Leicester? I tell you why. Because those teams, those 4 teams I just read out, are the only teams that played a low block against Chelsea. Fulham did not play a low block. Brighton did not play a low block. Crystal Palace. Oh, fuck, that's Man United. Fuck's sake. That's why the Wolves game's not on there. Sorry, let's start from here. So Bournemouth did not play a low block. West Ham did not play a low block. Brighton played football. Nottingham Forest, low block. We dropped points. Liverpool, they played. Fair enough. Newcastle, they played. United, low block. Arsenal, no low block in this game. You won. Villa tried to press. Southampton tried to press. Tottenham tried to press. And as soon as we went into the Brentford game, things became more difficult. You could see that the team was not playing the fluid football, the fun, attractive football that we were at the beginning of the year. Now, this is no coincidence. Teams changed the way that they set up against us and it made life harder for us. We still got result against Brentford, but we could have easily drawn that game. We thought it was a respectable point against Everton, but they just had a low block. Fulham, Ipswich, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth as well, Wolves. All of these teams sat deeper before, maybe not so much Bournemouth, but every other team that I'm thinking of sat deeper. West Ham had a low block. We had to really fight hard for that game. Brighton were counter-attacking. Villa were counter-attacking very well. So there's a huge change in the theme of what teams have done against us. But again, the guy's in the squad because he's got technical ability. He's supposed to be good at breaking down these low blocks. And he deserves criticism for that because that's your job. As Roy Keane says, do your job. So I'm with you on that, guys. I am with you on that. Sancho needs to perform better. It's actually quite bad when you look at his recent stats. But look at the team as a whole. The team as a whole is not doing well. And Sancho is part of that. When we have a purple patch as a team, we need a player who's going to pull his socks up as well. Sancho is not that guy. He's not. And Neto is. Neto is absolutely one of those players, and you'll see Neto always being first choice when he is available because he is the player that will just get on with it. But he needs help as well. These players, these wingers, they are not individualized wingers. Maybe Madueke is the only one who is a little bit more selfish and he'll take a chance on. But his decision-making is poor. Madueke struggles to, he struggles to do some of the basic things. Pick the right pass, shoot at the right time, find a teammate, get rid of the ball, recycle it, or even take the man on at times. Sometimes I think, why aren't you taking him on now? This is literally what you do, Madueke. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. So all of our wingers can do better. But again, one of the reasons I wanted to make this stream as well was because of our transfer policy. So if we actually hone in on Chelsea's transfer business, then I think that there's plenty to go over. And unfortunately, a lot of it is not necessarily what I would call attractive, but yeah, so much has happened. I mean, it's crazy how much has happened. If you haven't already smashed the like button, guys, please do. It does help the channel. Subscribe as well if you want to be up to date with all of the streams. We do a lunch stream pretty much every day, except a match day. Actually, no, even on match days, to be fair, except the day after a match day. So if we're going to rate some of these players off the top, and I'm going to ask you in the chat, 1 to 10. 1 means the guy's rubbish, he's crap. He's not good enough for a championship team, let alone Chelsea. Maybe Robert Sanchez you could put in that category. And 10 being, he's brilliant. I love him. More than capable of playing for this club. So Pedro Neto, 60 million from Wolves. Is in euros for some reason. I think it was a good signing. I think it was a smart signing. The only thing I didn't like about this signing was the fact that Pedro Neto is injury prone, and I feel like we have enough issues with that within our squad as it stands. But I think he's been managed well, and he has actually remained fit, which is brilliant. So that was good business for me. I think a lot of people were happy with that. Just the fact that we brought in a player who's established and linked with other top clubs, and he decided to come to Chelsea as well. So that was good. Neto is the only option. We've got a right wing at the moment since Noni is out in April. That is true. That is very true. Give Felix the same amount of minutes and you get a far higher output. Are we talking about Sancho here or are we talking about Neto? Run up the likes, guys. Let's get over 40 likes on the video, guys. Get over 40 likes. Let me know what we're on. Don't go too quickly, Arthur. Take your time. Take your time. Right. He says 5 for Neto. Neto's a 5, but quickly rising. Jorgensen could rise to. I think 5's a bit harsh, isn't it? I would have said like 7 or 8, a bit like Deals. 6 or a 7 out of 10, fair enough. Net end product could be a lot better, and 1v1s could do better. Okay, fair enough. What about Joao Felix? We've spoken a lot about Joao Felix. He's the same age as Neto, so still very young. 52 million euros, I think it was 45 million pounds from Atletico Madrid. A player that really didn't have as much hype as Pedro Neto, but people were very happy to see him come into the squad. He, what's the word? Yeah, he's disappointed since he's been at Chelsea, but he also hasn't been given a chance either. So you could say both of those arguments are valid. I personally, if I was going to give Neto anything, I'd give Neto a 7, and I give Felix a 5, because he has performed in the Conference League. He's been a good player to rotate with, but just hasn't offered enough apart from that. He hasn't offered enough. So, yeah, 7 for Neto, 5 for Felix. Dewsbury Hall, KDH. No, it's not KDB. It's KDH. Even better. I wish. Dewsbury Hall is going to be the most pointless signing that Chelsea have made this season. Almost as pointless as Kellyman, to be fair. I mean, that was pretty pointless as well. We're talking about FFP with that one. He's just not good enough. He's not good enough. He's older than a lot of the other players, and he's worse than the other players. Like, I don't know. You can't spin this and give me another Sanchez waffle. Sanchez is 27, and he's closer to 30 than 20, and people are going that we think he's got one of the best potentials to be a top Premier League goalkeeper. Dewsbury Hall is a top Championship player and maybe a stable Premier League player at another club. He had a good game against Wolves last time. I quite enjoyed his performance in that game. I thought he stepped up. Instead of Fernandez. But, man, the guy's just crap. He can't dribble. Doesn't score enough goals for me. Not creative enough at all. He's very flat with his passing. That's something that I expect much more. He's had good games in the Conference League and in the Cup. That's where you're going to see him at his best, when he's with a superior team and he's able to have that comfort and time on the ball. For me, Dewsbury Hall, I got to say like a 3 out of 10, because he has offered stuff in games, but you can't count on the guy. And that's not even because of his work ethic. He works hard. He's a good player. He's a professional player. When he come in, we heard he was one of the most professional players in the squad. I'm sorry, I would be one of the most professional players at Chelsea. I'd also be the worst. Professionalism only means something if you've actually got the ability to match your attitude, and then you deserve all the praise in the world. If you just have an attitude, then it could be anyone playing with that shirt, but that doesn't mean they've got what it takes to actually make good things happen with it. So 7 for Neto, 5 for Felix, 3 for KDH. Jorgensen, honestly, I'm not sure what to say with Jorgensen. We haven't seen enough of him. I'm going to say 5, just like... Actually, no, I'm going to say 6. I'm going to give him a bonus point because anything is better than Robert Sanchez. And just the fact that he's in the squad and he's able to drop Sanchez in itself is worthy of a point. But Jorgensen he's been underwhelming in the Premier League, but in the Conference League, he's been a good keeper. His best game was against Heidenheim. I thought he was fantastic in that game. Man of the match. He has the potential. Again, another young goalkeeper. He's 22 years old. This is not a signing that I'm against. I'm not against that signing. If you take away some of the other pointless signings, it really does make sense why we brought Jorgensen in. His stats in La Liga are fantastic. The question is, can you keep that up? Can you continue to bring your best level into a different league at a higher level? Jorgensen hasn't been given the chance to do that. We will see over the coming months if he can step up to the plate. Even if he does step up, to be fair, I'd still loan him out. I made a video this morning about the goalkeepers. So if you haven't already checked that out, it's basically got what I would do with each of our goalkeepers and the strategy that I would implement. Who should go, who should stay, who should be loaned, and why? Because we got so many goalkeepers, it's hard to know what to do with them. But we have to try and make use out of what we have. So yeah, Jorgensen can be a 6 out of 10 for me. He's been okay. Hasn't really had much of a chance. Kellyman, honestly, you'd have to give him like a 1. Just another pointless signing, an FFP, PSR, whatever you want to call it. A deal that was purely for the financial side of things. It was basically Aston Villa verbally agreeing to sign Martson, but we also agreed to sign Kellyman. If we hadn't have signed Kellyman, they wouldn't have had Martson. And we helped each other by having pure profit within that from a business perspective. So, I mean, Kellyman, I haven't seen anything from him. As far as I'm aware, he's had an injury as well recently. Yeah, 1 out of 10 for me. Mike Penders, I'm not really able to judge him because he hasn't played any games for Chelsea. He's not even played that many games for Genk. You know, he played his first senior game for Genk in July, and we signed him in August. That doesn't give you a lot to work off, but from what I hear, he's a good keeper in the Belgian league. And we've loaned him back out there as well, so all the best to him. And he certainly won't be playing for Chelsea next season, but he seems like a player with potential. So I'll give him. I don't have a rating for him, to be honest, because he's not even at the club. Anselmino, very similar. We brought him in, we loaned him out, we brought him back. He is now training around Cobham, getting used to the culture of England, getting used to the Premier League environment, even though he's not playing in it. He is, just settling into the team. It's hard to rate him as well, but yeah. So similar with Amugu. Guys just come in. He got a couple of minutes against Southampton. This is a player that, again, very strange signing. This is a player that we're buying to sell on. He'll be at Strasbourg next season, no doubt in my mind. Maresca literally come out and said that he's not ready now. And it's a player for the future, but in the short term, he's not going to help us whatsoever. Vega. Vega is a player that really deserves more respect. And I don't understand why we can't just play him as a centre-back. The guy wanted to play as a centre-back, and he was told to play as a left-back. He's also been inverted as a midfielder as well. Started in the midfield away against Newcastle. Had a poor game. But he's had some solid performances as well this season. I like Vega. I think that Vega is a player that shows me an awful lot of potential. It's just with these players, you say, right, I'm bringing you in. I'm getting you on the cheap because 40 million is not a lot of money. Like, can we actually retain this guy? Can Chelsea retain Vega and stop eating? I'm not eating. Can we actually retain this guy? And I just see it as another ploy to sell him on and flip him for a profit. I mean, the loan deal, financially speaking, when you look at what Juventus offered, it was about 5 million, maybe even 6. That's almost 50% of what we paid for him anyway. And in that respect, it's great business for Chelsea. Juventus were clearly desperate for centre-back. And Thiago Motta loved Vega before he got injured. There was articles saying, I think Motta said that basically he is the player that allows us to play from the back without having to bring another midfielder deeper. And Vega never had a chance to prove himself within that centre-back role, which is strange because we haven't solidified a centre-back at this club. I know you've got not Tosin, Levi Colwell, who's played on that left-hand side. And he has been very mixed this season. He's had some good games and he's not had some great games either. He's been all right. If you had to sum up the season as a whole, Liverpool would not be sniffing around Levi Colwell as it stands based on what they've seen this season. I think that he's let himself down a little bit in the sense of his discipline. I love the fact that he's willing to fight for the shirt. That's a great thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I don't like is the fact that he struggles to control himself at times. And there was an article that came out today on Matheus Cunha from Wolves, and it's saying that just the fact with his discipline that he can't control himself is going to put top clubs off of wanting to sign him. Because when it comes down to it in the big games, if he's on a yellow card at half time, as a manager, I'd be thinking, oh, maybe I need to take this guy off because there's a good chance we'll get another yellow. So I think it would have been good to have Vega as cover for Colwell as well. Badia Shield's obviously not been available. Tosin is there as well. You've got Chalobah who's come back. Caleb Wiley, haven't seen him at all, so I don't really have much to say about him. Mark Guiu, I give him a 5 as well. He's been a useful player. He's been a good player to have within the team. Again, nice rotation. I'm sure he's got a hat-trick against Noah, which was nice. And it was great when he swapped for Jackson before he got injured. I mean, what game was that? Was that the Wolves game? It might have been the Wolves game. I'm not sure. Mark Guiu really would have had some good minutes at Chelsea, but unfortunately his injury is just a real pain in the arse. But that's another player that I see being flipped on for a profit. I give him a 5 out of 10. He's been okay. He's been useful, hasn't he? Tosin, I'm going to give Tosin a 7. He was a free signing. He was an experienced player. He was a direct replacement for Thiago Silva. He's 10 years younger than Thiago Silva, maybe even more. Probably like 12, actually, 12 or 13 years. But I think Tosin has been a good addition to Chelsea, contrary to what a lot of people say about him. It's not a risk. The guy was bought on a free transfer. He's not on a ridiculous wage. He's on a relatively high wage. He's on 120 grand a week. But I think he offers enough to the team to justify keeping him around. I think, as I said, he's one of the leaders within the squad. They call him Uncle. I mean, to be honest, that's a bit of a... The fact that every player I'm looking on here, Tosin's the oldest one and he's 26, that is worrying. But that's what we're working with, isn't it? And if we ever got an offer for Tosin, we could flip him on for a profit as well, and I'm sure we will. If an offer of 20 million comes in for him, something like that, I'm sure a team would pay that money, and we would absolutely flip him. Absolutely. So yeah, there's that aspect. But I do think that he's had some good games, and his blocking ability is what's really impressed me. Not necessarily always winning the duels. You know, I remember when he got bullied at Ipswich, the lap was all over Tosin. You know, there are games when you think, fucking hell, man, you need to pass the ball out a little bit quicker. He's certainly a player that can improve. But we know our limitations with Tosin. We're not expecting the world, but it's a decent player to have around. He shouldn't be a starter, but he's a player that should be around the squad. And I like the fact that, you know, he accepts the fact that he's not going to start every week. And you need to have players like that around. And that's what we were hoping Joao Felix could be. But you end up having problems with the dressing room. And it's hard to find players like what we have with Ruben Loftus-Cheek years ago, who aren't really the pick of the bunch. But when they're available and when they're needed, they come in and they do a job. So Tosin's been okay for me. He's been one of the better signings in terms of the fact that we paid nothing for him. And at least we have a little bit of experience. Jadon Sancho, you've got to give him probably... you've got to remember, though, that we didn't pay anything for him. We didn't pay anything. So 120 grand, it does seem like a lot. And that's why we paid him more, is because we never had to pay the fee in the first place. So he still fits into our structure in that regard. Jadon Sancho, I'll give him a 6 out of 10. He had a fantastic impact when he first come in and he's fallen off. But his form at the beginning did get us a lot of points. There are a number of games that we did well in because of Jadon Sancho coming on and making an impact. You can't look at the Tottenham game the same way without Jadon Sancho's performance. We wouldn't have beaten Bournemouth away. There are other games where he got assists. I can't think off the top of my head. But he's certainly contributed. But it's like 1/3 fantastic, and then you've had 2/3 which has been empty. We just need to spread things out and get that consistency, because that's what he's lacking. But again, when the team starts to play better football, you'll see Jadon Sancho play better football, and I really believe that. But he needs to do better, 100%. Bashir Humphreys, I don't have anything to say about him. At Chimpong, I give him a 6. Solid when he came in against Crystal Palace. He was actually one of the best players on the pitch. Hasn't been given enough minutes, actually. I would have liked to have seen more of Josh, especially instead of Gusto. If you don't like Gusto coming in and playing that right-back role and inverting, then I don't see why you can't try it with Achimpong, because he played as a fullback and did very well. He's played as a centre-back as well. Actually, I think it was a centre-back when he made his debut against Palace, if I'm not wrong. Should have scored in that game, but his distribution was lovely. He's got good pace, and he's a tall player as well. He brings a little bit of height there as well. I'll give Josh a 6. Not really seen too much of him, but there you go. Anarin, don't have much to say about him. Tyreek George, maybe a 5. Haven't seen enough of him to really comment. And when he's been on the pitch, I can't say he's been unbelievable. He played against Astana. He did okay there. He come on against Brighton. He was a bright spark, but not really enough end product for me. I need to see more of Tyreek George. Yeah. Ian Matson, was that good business getting rid of Ian Matson? No, he would have been perfect for our system. I never understood why we sold him for footballing reasons. It was all financial. Lukaku was a great sale, so glad to get rid of him. Ugochukwu, I think that was a smart loan, but I would have brought him back in January. Would have been in a much more comfortable position, being able to, just rotate him with Caicedo every now and then, or Fernandez. He's defensively solid, but he also showed in pre-season he's a dark horse. He's a player capable of scoring goals, even though he's a defensive midfielder. So I'd love to see Ugochukwu in the squad next season. He won't be a starter, but again, that's the depth that we want with European football as well. And I'm crossing my fingers that we get Champions League football. But if I'm being honest with myself and with you, I think we'll probably get Europa League football. But you still need to rotate, and the Europa League's not what it was when we played in it a couple of years back. You actually need to have some depth, and there are tough games in that competition. So it should be taken seriously, and I think that Ugochukwu can help us a lot. Sterling, amazing business. People say you're still paying $250,000 a week to pay his wages, but guess what? You're saving $100,000, and for that reason, do you know what? I would have gotten rid of him for free to Arsenal, because he's been crap there. And I tell you what, they probably regret even taking him up on loan, because he has not helped them whatsoever. He's been a bottle job. He's been rubbish. So, yeah, good business getting rid of Sterling. Palace, loaning Ben Chilwell as well. We had to get rid of him. Unfortunately, he just doesn't suit the system. And that's how it is, So I don't really have anything bad to say about Chilwell, but yeah, it's just one of those unfortunate situations where you've got an injury-prone player who plays a certain way, who's never going to fit into our system, and that's what he's up to now. Lewis Hall, FFP, again, another player that I probably would have kept at the club. If it wasn't Maatsen, I would have kept Hall. More than good enough to play for Chelsea now, and he would have been in great rotation as well. Broha, nothing to say about him. Angelo as well. He's at Strasbourg. Trevor Chalobah, I think that was good business bringing him back, although we look stupid. And that's basically, and then you got Kepa as well, who I can't wait to get rid of. So that's some of the recent business that we've done. If I've missed anyone out, let me know. I think Steven's asking Washington 20 million, and they sent him on loan instead. Where's David Washington? Well, he was never going to play for us, was he? He was never going to play. Mudryk as well. I mean, well, if he's negative, then that would be great, because I'd like to see Mudryk back in a Chelsea shirt. I do think he helped the team. I saw recently that Ugochukwu and Chukwuemeka are both going off to represent Nigeria. I had no idea. I thought Ugochukwu was French, isn't he? Oh, French and Nigerian. Nigerian heritage. Nah, I got to disagree with you on that one, man. Ben Chilwell, look, he could have had more minutes. I agree with you there. And I'm sure politics come into play. I don't disagree with that. Yeah, politics was certainly a factor as to why Ben Chilwell didn't get game time. He would have featured more if it wasn't for his wages. There's no doubt in my mind. But he doesn't suit what we're doing. He is a player that wants to bomb up the left-hand side, similar to Gusto. And he wouldn't have been able to do that. You can't tell me that you can see Chilwell inverting in our system and performing well. He doesn't possess those qualities. He just doesn't have it. I watched a fair bit of Palace versus Millwall, and Chilwell was playing left wing back, so that's his position. He was absolutely shy. So, I mean, in fairness, give the man a couple of games, but yeah. I just think that Chilwell's not at the level anymore to play for Chelsea, irrespective. Even if we did play him as a left wing back. Well, I'm with you on that. I don't like our system either. I think that honestly, we just don't get the best out of our players. I mean, there's no other way of me saying it other than that. We do not get the best out of our players. We have a team that, quite frankly, I don't think all of the players are being utilised. And if I was to name a few, then, I would name, let's go through it, players that are not performing under Maresca. Okay, actually, let me use a different word. Not improving. Not improving. Sanchez has got worse. Jorgensen's a new signing. Cucurella has maintained his form from last season. Tosin's a new signing. Badiashile, you could argue, looks better under Maresca. I mean, not a high bar. Colwell as well. I mean, Maresca does play him in his proper position, but he's not had the best of seasons. Chalobah was better last year. James was probably better last year, even with the limited minutes he had. Gusto was definitely better. Fofana wasn't available last season. When he's played this year, he's been okay. So probably better at the moment. Fernandez has been better under Maresca. Caicedo has been brilliant for Maresca, but he was also really good towards the end of last season. He improved under Poch. So, he's carrying that momentum into this season as well. Lavia has been fantastic. Didn't really see him last season. Neto's a new signing. Mudryk has improved under Maresca. Madueke, for me, has plateaued. He was improving, and then he just hasn't really picked up. He hasn't really picked up that momentum. Jackson's regressed under Maresca. I actually think he was improving a lot last season. His hold-up play towards the end of the year was fantastic. It was so good. When we first saw him playing, we just saw a player who was able to drop deep and link up well and make those runs. But I saw at the end of last season his ability to actually hold the ball up. And Maresca's system actually counters that because we don't do enough long balls for him to be in a position to hold the ball up. I think that Jackson's got worse under Maresca in a lot of ways. And I put that down to the system. I think the system doesn't benefit Jackson as much as last year. And Nkunku has regressed. He has not improved under Maresca. Maresca should get more of that guy. He has just killed Nkunku. And Palmer has regressed in the goal scoring sense. He's not a player that will win you matches as much under this system because where he's being played as a number 10, he is easily man-marked out of games. And last season on the right-hand side, if you bring another player from a central position out wide, that frees up space for someone else. And now if you've got him man-marked, you still have the middle of the pitch, and teams are more than happy for you to go out to the wing and try and create things that sense, because it is harder. So in the middle of the park, he's having more trouble. He is more creative, but I would argue that Palmer's worse this season than he was last season. Maybe part of that as well is due to the way teams play against us and the fact that they're aware of how good Palmer is. But I do think that, I do think that he's got worse. So those are just a few players, and that's me being honest. That's the truth. I've never, I wasn't that keen on bringing Maresca in, but I'm happy to try and support the guy. I mean, I lost it after Brighton, didn't I? When he kept playing Sanchez, I was like, what are you doing? You're just an idiot playing Sanchez every week. If it wasn't for Sanchez, we'd probably be in a much more comfortable position. That guy has lost us so many points. He's lost us more than he's gained us. We had this debate months ago, and you were like, well, he had a good game against Forest and Bournemouth. He saved a penalty. That's fine. But all in all, the guy he's not good enough for us. He's not good enough. And the manager, yeah, he did win us points. I just said he won us points, but he's lost us more points than he's gained us. And that's the reality of it. I think you're taking what I said and you're no, that's not what I mean. I'm not saying we don't get the best out of them. We don't get the best out of a lot of our players that we would have got more out of last season. Caicedo's just carried his form on from last season, so that's the same. Enzo has improved. I'll give you that. Cucurella has continued his form. Palmer's regressed. He's not as good as he was last year from a goal scoring perspective. He's more creative, but he's not a goal scorer that will win us games as much as he was last year because of the position he's playing in. And Tosin wasn't at Chelsea last year, so I can't judge. Gusto's not been great. Put that down to the system. I don't blame Gusto. Even when he's played as a wing back, for example, in 1 or 2 games, people are like, "Oh, he didn't perform in his actual position." But do it every week, and you'll see the guy get rhythm. Chilwell as so many injury prone. He wasn't going to fit in Maresca's system. That's why I wanted to go on loan. It's the wages as well. That's a big factor. I hate to say injuries help players because they don't. But I do think a bit of time off for Jackson could make him come back a lot stronger. He certainly needed some time off anyway. It's just a shame that him and Mark Guiu got injured around the same time. That was a real blow because I would have loved to have seen Mark Guiu playing more matches. And I think, I'm not going to say we would have won games, but I think we would have played better with Mark Guiu up front as opposed to Nkunku, for example. I think Jorgensen's a much better player than Sanchez. Can we not all agree on that? He'll make less mistakes, and that alone makes him better than Sanchez. Just the fact that you're not making silly mistakes. If Chelsea had an opportunity in the summer and they were looking for a striker option, would you take the Lap and Victor or Gyökeres, bring them both and put Guiu? Oh, bless you, or bless me. Would I put Guiu in the Championship? Who do you give him to? Coventry? Super Frank? I'd bring him to Coventry. That could work. Give Joao Felix to Coventry while we're at him as well. Why not? Let's have it. No, we won't get both of those players. We'll only get one. And I think that we will end up getting Delap. And I'm happy with Delap. I'm not going to sit here and say he's a shit signing. He's a good signing. He is not the top of the top. He's not top range, but he's an upgrade. And he does make this team better. And he is a player that helps Chelsea fight for Champions League. And he gives us a totally different dynamic to having Jackson. I'd almost be interested to see Jackson and Delap playing together. I think that would be awesome. They would cause teams problems. That's like having Jota and Nunes up front for Liverpool. That causes issues. And then you got Salah as well and Diaz. Different aspect, different types of players, and they all bring something different to the table. Tijani will be a great addition. Yeah, he's the guy from Milan, isn't he? I don't really know too much about him, if I'm totally honest with you. But listen, it's certainly a player that we could be looking at. I mean, we've asked about him for the summer window. He'll soon extend at AC Milan, and his will is to stay. But if Milan doesn't qualify for the Champions League, then all offers for top stars will be evaluated, including Rafael. And that's where these links started from. So we almost have to hope for a drop-off in form from Milan. But that's if we want to sign. If we want to sell, then we want them to get Champions League football because then they'll have more money to spend. But I don't think that will be the case. Milan are not looking like they're going to be a team pushing for the Champions League. Yeah, that's the truth. Robert Sanchez is 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. Great saves he cost us with the mistakes. I couldn't agree with you more, mate. Could not agree with you more. But that's what we're working with. We're working with players who aren't good enough for Chelsea, and we're pretending that they might be, and they're not. And we are not good enough to even say, well, when I say we, I mean the players that we have, they're not Chelsea quality. Some of them are, but not all of them. I mean, Petrovic, that would be a start. Bring him back and just get rid of the deadwood from last season and replace it with young, ready-made talent. Doesn't have to be old, but someone that's 25, 26, has some experience, good stats to back themselves up in another league or the Premier League. Just something. If we keep signing these 15-year-olds from Brazil, it's going to kill me. But listen, smash the like button if you haven't already, guys. Let's get over 50 likes on this video. I don't know what we're on. Appreciate you all jumping on as well for the stream. There'll be another stream at 8 o'clock going through all of the latest news regarding Chelsea, as well as some talking points. So jump on that one. That won't be with me. That will be with someone else. But listen, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Big up to everyone that's watching, and we will catch up very soon.